any madhab or any way of living, any way of being in the world, at least for a Muslim, has to be tied to the sacred sources, has to be tied back to the Quran and the Sunnah in particular. And because we believe from a theological point of view, and also as part of our worldview, a part of our teleology, if you like, which is that we believe as Muslims that Allah, as someone who is out of time, who exists out of time, out of space, has revealed the Quran to us, and of course the practice of the Prophet ﷺ has to be relevant not just for 7th century Arabia, but for all civilizations at all points in human time. So whether it's in the 21st century, 22nd century, 17th century, 16th century, whether that's in Khurasan, whether that's in Egypt, whether that's in USA, or even some of the islands such as New Zealand or whatever else, the Quran should always be relevant. Revelation should always be talking to people's actual circumstances, actual exigencies. So this is a way of thinking about it, or it helps us to conceptualize the theory, which is something that I hope that we can do. And we think about the first box here, number one, is we can think of fiqh developing in a kind of a old sociology, an old worldview, in a medieval worldview, where we didn't have technology, we didn't have modern ways of living. And so what the fuqaha were doing was, the Muslims came into a world which was not theirs, if you like. The world was given unto them. Just like you're born into a world that is not of your creating. You come into the world, and that's an existing world Allah has brought you into. So the Muslims came into a world, the empire expanded and it grew, and they were that was an old sociology, or a given sociology. And so what they had to do was respond to the situation at hand. So they would look into Quran, they would look into Sunnah, they would philosophize, they would develop theories to respond to how to faithfully act upon the Quran and the Sunnah, how to faithfully worship Allah given the world that you're living in. So new situations. So the old world, or a given world and a new situation, what that does is that creates the first way of doing the law, and it sets the precedent. So that's when the mazahib, or the schools of law, begin to emerge. People are trying to make sense of how to follow a certain hadith, or they've got a new situation and they need to look into the Quran, they need to look into the Sunnah. It might not even be explicitly mentioned. And so what they need is they need a way, a consistent method of making sense of that. So you bring the nusus, the Quran and Sunnah, and you bring the world that you live in together to create a harmony. And that's what fiqh really is trying to do here. So it's a way of reflecting intellectually with revelation to live in the world as it is today.